Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and we'd like to call the meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners to order. And Commissioner Schaefer will lead us in prayer, then Commissioner Black will lead us in the pledge.
Could you bow your heads with me, please? Father God, true God from true God, God of light, not of darkness, we come before you in praise and thanksgiving, giving you the glory for the life you have given to each one of us and for being a major part of this country, dear Lord. We call upon you to help us in our humanity for the mess that we can make of things. We ask you for the wisdom of your Spirit to come upon us, not only this evening, but every day of our lives. We ask you to be with our government, our military personnel, and those close to us who have passed away. We again thank you for the rescue of the miners in Chile and for showing us what can happen when people come together as one for one purpose. In our Lord and Savior, Christ Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Black.
Here.
Commissioner Jordan.
Here.
Commissioner Peay.
Here.
Commissioner Cook.
Here.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Here.
Commissioner Farley.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Here.
Commissioner Turner.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Jordan.
Here.
Commissioner Baum.
Here.
Commissioner Coggin.
Present.
Commissioner Young. Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner McAdoo.
Here.
Commissioner Ealy.
Here.
Commissioner Gooch.
Here.
And Commissioner Serenho.
Here.
20 present.
Thank you. You have received a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Phillips.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed those minutes, find them in order, and move that they be approved as mailed.
All right, is there a second? Commissioner Jernigan. Does anyone have any corrections or additions? There being none, all in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. Now we have a time for public comments, and tonight we have 3 people that wish to speak. And I'll remind you to come forward and give your name and address, and that you are limited to 3 minutes, so please try to hold your comments to that time. And there is a timer up here that you can see that will indicate when that much time has elapsed. First, we have Elizabeth Coker.
Mayor Burgess, Commissioners, this is not a task I enjoy, but I had to remind myself earlier this evening that I represent more than the comments made tonight by myself. You have before you a sheet of paper I passed out earlier. It's 5 pages, I believe. Due to the overwhelming self-incriminating recent testimony in Chancellor Robert Corlew III's Chancery Courtroom on Tuesday, September the 28th, 2010, a large group of our residents of this county from various backgrounds all across our community have decided to request the immediate resignation of Rutherford County Planning Director Doug Demosi. Mr. Demosi has overstepped the boundaries of his position on several occasions, but the intentional misleading of county planners on the May 24, 2010 planning meeting was the most recent example of his untrustworthiness with regard to the performance of the duties of his office. The following statements are taken from court records to cite the specific reasons we are asking this body of commissioners to vote to remove him of his duties. Number one, and I'm not going to take the time to go over all of them, but I will go over a few today. You have those before you. When Commissioner Sandlin asked Mr. Demosi if the cemetery indicated on the ICM site plan was proposed or existing, Demosi responded proposed and repeated that statement several times, never indicating to anyone present at the May 24th planning meeting that a body had already been buried at that location by special permit only 6 days earlier. I will not go into all of these sections that this permit is illegal. Mr. Demosi assumed the sole authority for granting this permit by ignoring our county regulations, and you have those articles and sections in front of you for your review. I have a petition that I will present to the county district attorney. We have decided that the failure to perform his duties as his duties are outlined by our county regulations, we are asking at this point that the district attorney be advised of our grievances, and we have a copy of the petition that we will present to him in a copy of this letter as well. You can review that and ask any questions. I will be here throughout the remainder of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Mr. Brooks Crystal.
Thank you, Mayor Burgess and esteemed commissioners, for the time to speak here today. My name is Brooks Crystal, and I'm the Marketing and Development Director for the Murfreesboro Symphony Orchestra. I know that most of you are familiar with and appreciate the Murfreesboro Symphony, as I've seen a few of your faces at our concerts, and we thank you for that. For those of you who don't know, the Murfreesboro Symphony is a professional orchestra, utilizing professional musicians to perform at a professional level. I use this word professional a few times because we want the community to understand the high caliber at which the symphony performs. Our musicians play with other symphonies in Jackson, Huntsville, Bowling Green, Chattanooga, and in the past we've shared musicians with the Nashville Symphony as well. Many of these musicians have studied at schools, at the premier music schools across the globe, including the pinnacle, Juilliard. Speaking of Juilliard, next week the Murfreesboro Symphony will invite to the stage a hometown hero. Nicholas Zumbro is a Murfreesboro native who has been embraced as one of the foremost classical pianists in the world. He studied and later taught at Juilliard and has performed across the globe. Next week, Zumbro will perform an exciting piano concert with a small ensemble from the Murfreesboro Symphony that will showcase why his talent and passion are so well recognized. It's a concert not to be missed. Each year, the Symphony chooses its performances based upon a theme. This year, the season is entitled Our Very Own and celebrates the musicians and the conductors, the influence that we have had, that Middle Tennessee has had on the music world. All of our guest conductors and artists are from this area. They call Middle Tennessee home. And every single one of them is excited about being able to perform in front of a hometown audience. Our last concert, From Lincoln Center to Broadway, was conducted by Joseph Lee, and it was one of our most well-received concerts. It will only get better. Our patrons have helped us weather these dismal economic conditions that have caused many nonprofits to close their doors. With a commitment from our board to be more efficient while improving the quality of the orchestra's performances, we have been able to not only withstand these pressures, but actually to grow in spite of them. I encourage each of you to join us next week to honor this native son and to celebrate the musical influence of Middle Tennessee and Rutherford County. Again, thank you for for your time this evening, and I want to say thank you for your continued commitment to improving the quality of life in Rutherford County.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next, we have Mr. Donald Todd.
My name is Donald Todd, and I live at 633 Buck Lane. Financial and governmental crisis, metro government or collectivism, freedom in America, which depends on our God-given system of self-government by the will of the people, is being destroyed. Citizens living along Manson Pike learned that truth recently when a judge signed an order authorizing Murfreesboro to annex their land and to give power to the city to force these citizens to pay an additional burden of city taxes which they did not want. Contradicting the Constitution's ordained system of government with its three branches of powers, guaranteeing our freedom through a checks and balances arrangement, judges throughout our country are legislating from the bench. And a local judge, along with our local state senators, are also helping in this unconstitutional process of ignoring the sovereign will of the people. The responsibility of the judicial branch is not to legislate from the bench. That responsibility belongs to the Tennessee legislature. Our county government is not without blame either. Knowing that the citizens in the Blackman community already were furnished with fire and police protection, and being aware of the fervent opposition of these citizens to having burdensome taxes forced upon them by the city, Rutherford County did nothing to assist in the legal battle to prevent the city from implementing coercive annexation, which is a form of taxation without representation, and therefore unconstitutional. Also, when legislation was introduced to the Tennessee legislature to restore the taxpayers' right of trial by jury, particularly in cases of coercive annexation, Rutherford County failed to come to the assistance of its residents by putting verbal and legal pressure on our local state senators to adopt the proposed legislation. The failure to apply political pressure resulted in our local state senators ignoring the Tennessee State Constitution, Article 1, Section 6, which states, quote, "The right of trial by jury shall remain inviolate," unquote. We need to stop ignoring our state and U.S. constitutions with the three-branch system of checks and balances. When you study the biblical passage in Isaiah 33:22, you will see, as our founding father James Madison saw, that separating government into three branches, judicial, legislative, and executive, is preferable. Earlier, I alluded to the fact that officials within the judicial branch are merging their authority with the legislative branch of government. This is destroying our system of separation of powers. Metro government or collectivism is the origin of this dangerous development. Russia's ruthless dictatorship is based on collectivism. Every state legislature in the country needs to investigate metro policies, which are also helping to cause our financial crisis by increasing taxes and debt.
Next, we'll proceed with elections and confirmations. Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Burgess. I think on the packet that was laid in front of you, we have notaries listed, and I move that they be approved according to that list.
Second, Commissioner Farley. All of you in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you.
We need to announce an alternate vacancy on the BZA to fill the unexpired term of Joe Crowell. As you remember, Joe was promoted from alternate to a full term last month. Number three, we need to announce our county coroner vacancy. And number four, we need to fill 2 commissioner vacancies on the Agricultural Advisory Board. One term to expire in 2012. The steering committee recommends Will Jordan, and one to expire in 2011, and the steering committee recommends Steve Sandlin. I move for their approval.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. All right, are you ready for a vote? All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
We also need to fill a vacancy on the Community Care Board, and the steering committee recommends Commissioner Carol Cook. I move for her approval.
Second, Commissioner Black. Any discussion? All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
We also need to fill a commissioner vacancy on the Records Commission, and one of our newest commissioners, Robert Stevens, has generously volunteered to fill that, and the steering committee unanimously recommends him for that appointment, and I so move.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
We have a couple of announcements, and that's just to confirm some appointments, and this is the following appointments to the Emergency Communications District Board. County Mayor, the Mayor of Murfreesboro, the Mayor of Smyrna, the Mayor of Laverne, the Mayor of Eagleville, the Murfreesboro Fire Chief, the Rutherford County Sheriff, our new Sheriff Robert Arnold, and Mike Nunley and John Hood. One thing that's not on our agenda, we also need to announce Mayor Burgess' reappointment of John L. Beatty, Jr. to the CUD Board.
Commissioner Phillips, on the appointments to the Emergency Board, we'd like to get their confirmation of those appointments. So if you would make that motion, please.
I'd be glad to. I move for the approval of the confirmation of appointments for the Emergency Communications District Board.
Second by Commissioner Farley. Any discussion there? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Thank you very much.
We don't have to move on John L. Beatty?
No, sir. That's just to announce that appointment. Okay, thank you very much there. All right. Let me say this. Under unfinished business, there is one piece of unfinished business, but it's still not ripe for discussion. You know, we deferred action on the resolution to adopt the anti-litter ordinance. That has been back to the steering committee. They're still in the process of reviewing that and have some other suggested changes that I'm sure is going to come forward, so that will remain as unfinished business, but it will be coming back to you as soon as they have determined exactly the final form of that. Okay, Commissioner Ealy, let's see, before we get to you, we have reports by the standing committees. The Purchasing Committee has met, and we do have a report in there that we need approval on. Do we have a motion to approve the Purchasing Committee? Commissioner Schaefer, second from Commissioner McAdoo. All right. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor, please then say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, now then, Commissioner Ealy, we are going to have 7 or 8 minutes or so here, so if you can start your report from the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee, please.
We will begin with General Fund Budget Amendments, item J2A. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows. First, from the county attorney, we have had several legal issues to deal with in recent months. This budget amendment is to give additional funding for legal services performed by our county attorney over and above the monthly retainer. Unassigned fund balance, $50,000. Legal services, $50,000. We have 2 budget amendments following from the Register of Deeds and the county clerk. Both of these will deal with greater transparency as to the cost of each of these offices. And you will see we are moving the operation from excess fee operation to a fee in lieu of salary operation. And what that means is the fees that are collected in these offices will be turned over to the county on a monthly basis, and we will be budgeting their salaries. Starting with the Register of Deeds, increased revenue, fees in lieu of salary register, $676,397. Increased expenditures, county official, $65,000. $312, deputies $389,432, part-time personnel $27,508, longevity pay $5,300, in-service training $175, Social Security $30,230, state retirement $58,150, employee dependent insurance $91,710, disability insurance $1,010, employer Medicare $7,070, travel $500. County clerk, increased revenues, fees in lieu of salary for the county clerk, $1,536,639. Increased expenditures, county official $65,312. Deputies $989,034. Part-time personnel $10,088. Longevity pay $11,275. Social Security $66,700. State retirement $134,700. Employee dependent insurance $237,410. Hang with me here. Disability insurance $2,320. Employer Medicare $15,600. Travel $4,200. From the drug court, increased revenue. This reflects last year's expenses being reported in this year's budget. For an ARA JAG drug court grant, $3,626. Increased expenditures, consultants, $3,600, and office supplies, $26. General Sessions Court, this amendment is for psychological evaluations that are ordered by the court for misdemeanors, and we have had 4 individuals and billed for that at $40,500, which last year was all the history that we have of that. So this is the anticipated charges for this year. Unassigned fund balance, $97,000 to evaluation and testing, $97,000. On the back, please, domestic violence. This is to provide a cash match for a grant. VAA restricted for administration of justice victims assistance assessment, $10,000. Travel, $329. To the ARA Stop Domestic Violence part-time personnel, $9,290. Social Security, $576. Employer Medicare, $134. Data processing equipment, $329. From the Sheriff's Department and jail, we have increased revenue of contribution and gifts, $2,354. Increased expenditures for other contracted services, $2,354. And increased revenue, contributions, and gifts of $25, increased expenditures for instructional supplies, $25. And increased revenue, sale of recycled materials, $300, jail and maintenance repair building, $300. From the informational technology for court security, Sheriff's Department, juvenile detention, juvenile court, and correctional work center. This is to enhance security in each of those buildings. From CTSEC, restricted for administration of justice court security, $20,000. Sheriff's Department, other equipment, $20,000. And from JWC, restricted for public safety and jail, workhouse, and courthouse, $85,000. Correctional Work Center, other equipment, $85,000. Resolved this 14th day of October, 2010. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan. Are there any questions or discussion? Commissioner Schaefer and Commissioner Peay.
Yes, it's on the General Sessions Court. I would be negligent and if I did not mention that this, the $97,000 there is an unfunded mandate from the Tennessee State General Assembly.
Thank you.
To the counties.
Commissioner Peay. All right, thank you, sir. Any other discussion? All right then. Well, the general session judges, when they feel a particular misdemeanor has some need for some psychological evaluation, they order that testing done, and now we have to pay for it. The state changed the law. This is into the second year, but some of this is a carryover for some testing that was done even last year that we're just now getting bills for. All right, is any other questions? All right, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, motion passes.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Ealy, I think we will need to suspend where we are right now, and it's time for our public hearings. It's at 6:30, and we have 3 tonight. And first is a conditional use permit request number 10-A011 on behalf of the Word and Spirit Church, located at 4137 Shelbyville Highway. Existing zoning is R15, and the conditional use permit request is for a daycare center on a site of approximately 4 acres. Mr. Demosi.
Yes, Mayor, thank you, and good evening, Mayor and members of the Commission. The Word and Spirit Church, located on Shelbyville Highway, is proposing to open a 5-day-a-week licensed daycare for children ages 6 weeks to 5 years, with the addition of an after-school program for older children in the future. The hours of operation will be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's estimated that 35 children will attend the first year. However, the church is seeking a state license that would allow up to 69 children in the future. The church currently uses the property for church services and also church ministries. The daycare center will require no new construction. The church is proposing to use the existing building and parking area. A new fenced playground would be added to the property. The property received 1 variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals back in 2009 to allow an illuminated sign in a residential district. The adjacent property is zoned residential. There is 1 property about 400 feet to the south on Shelbyville Highway that is zoned for services to allow a mini storage facility. This is part of the Christiana Buchanan land use study, which does show the future land use in this property as mixed use. This would be compatible with that. Section 703 of the Rutherford County Zoning Resolution states that daycare facilities with 8 or more children shall go through the Type 3 process as we're going through here tonight. They are required to provide off-street parking, unloading areas, and fenced play area, which this facility will do. This did go in front of the Planning Commission. There was really not really a whole lot of comments or opposition to this, and it did pass unanimously with a recommendation of approval. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Demosi before the public hearing? All right, thank you, sir. All right, then we'll declare the public hearing open and allow anyone that wishes to speak for or against this proposed request to please come forward and give us your name and address and make your statement. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Not seeing anyone that wishes to come forward, we will declare the public hearing closed. And now do we have a motion concerning this application? Commissioner Jernigan.
Make a motion to approve with the conditions that planning brought forth.
All right. Do we have a second? And that was, Commissioner Turner. Is there any other discussion? All of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. Next, we have an amendment to a conditional use permit. This is request number 10-A012 on behalf of Pinnacle National Bank. And the property is located on Rucker Lane, and the existing zoning is R15. And the existing conditional use permit is for a planned residential development, and the amendment requested is to remove the condition that requires Rucker Lane to be improved before Phase 2 construction can begin. And this is an approximately 86-acre site. Mr. Demosi.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you. This planned development is an application for what's called the Muirwood subdivision, was submitted by Roland and Roland Investments back in November of 2006. Muirwood is proposed to be comprised of approximately 324 lots on 122 acres of property. The original concept plan attached with your agenda materials shows the layout and the location of the various lot types. Phase 1 of the project, which contains 60 lots, has been completed as far as the infrastructure improvements. The final subdivision plat for Phase 1 was recorded back in May of 2008, and to date, 5 single-family permits have been issued. The remaining 86 acres of undeveloped land is the property in question at this time. Most of the surrounding area is either already developed with single-family residences or is in the process of being developed. Directly across Rucker Lane is the Marymount subdivision within the city of Murfreesboro city limits. Development plans indicate that when fully developed, there will be approximately 1,858 homes on that property. To the north, we have the Southern Air, Parkway East, Country Park, and Old South Estates subdivisions, which are still in the unincorporated areas of Rutherford County. And there's also Scottish Glen and property belonging to the Kingdom Ridge developments, which are also inside the city of Murfreesboro. The original permit contained a condition that construction on the second phase of the project could not begin until the Rucker Lane improvements had been completed. At that time, the Rucker Lane project was scheduled to be completed in 2008 by the city of Murfreesboro. This project was delayed in order to focus on the Veterans Parkway construction, which is nearing completion. Rucker Lane will be realigned to intersect with Veterans Parkway approximately a half mile to the south of the Muirwood subdivision. There's a letter in your comments as well, and a roadway map from the city of Murfreesboro talking about the new plans for the improvement to Rucker Lane. The realignment and the expansion to 3 lanes is now scheduled to be constructed back in 2013. The correspondence you'll see in your packet was actually the first correspondence we received from the city prior to their meeting with the city council back in August. Originally, it was supposed to be 2012 is what they were looking at, but since that meeting, they have moved that to 2013. Since the original application, the title of the property of Muirwood subdivision has been conveyed to Pinnacle National Bank, which was the original lender on the subdivision. The bank has found a purchaser for the undeveloped land, but the purchaser is unwilling to buy the property with that condition requiring the completion of Rucker Lane by the city of Murfreesboro. There was a good amount of discussion, I would say, about this at the Planning Commission. Ultimately, they did vote to recommend approval of taking off that condition of having Rucker Lane widened prior to Phase 2 being approved. I believe there was one person in opposition, but I'll be happy to answer any question at this time.
Any questions, Commissioner Peay?
Why was that condition originally on there if there wasn't a need for it, Doug?
Originally, I think there was some concern with the development that was going on in that area, and as you said, with the development across the street as well as this. I believe there was concern that just the number of lots that were being built in that area. Plus, I think that there was overall, I think there was a sense of that the city was going to be coming in there shortly. They felt 60 lots was enough at the time, that would give them enough to get started on what they were doing. And by the time went to Phase 2, that the road improvement would be completed. But I think a lot of it had to do with just the number of lots up and down Rucker.
With this construction being delayed to 2013.
That's correct.
And you've got the maps there. Will they build this to meet the new road that'll be coming through, so won't have to be new construction on the site after the new road's put in, except for the new road itself?
You're meaning that the subdivision won't have to develop any new roads? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
That's correct. Right. Yeah. Basically one of the other requirements in the application is that right-of-way be dedicated, and it has been to this point for Phase 1. Now, this is something else to keep in mind. This is a development that's served by the sewer from the city of Murfreesboro, so they also get to look at this. But we did get the right-of-way dedication and for Phase 1, and if Phase 2 were to come online, they still have 55 lots out there to develop. And in this economy that we're in right now, even with the road improvement being pushed off to 2013, they should have a number of lots to keep them busy for a few years. So.
But the developer will be paying for any improvements. The county will not be liable for any of those.
Well, actually, I believe as I understand the improvement to Rucker, it's actually funded by the city of Murfreesboro. That the county's doesn't have any part of that.
I just want to make sure after that improvements are made, the roads are turned over to the county, that the county's not liable for any improvements where that road will be intersection with the subdivision.
Right. I mean, the road. They'll build the road. I don't think, as far as Rucker's concerned, wouldn't be constructed by the developer. They would just dedicate the right of way and make that part of the larger project. Is my understanding of how that's supposed to work. So, but again, it's funded through the city of Murfreesboro, not Rutherford County. That's a city project. Am I answering your question, Commissioner Peay?
Okay. I think if you'll notice the table that's contained here, Rutherford County has no participation in the improvements of Rucker Lane. It's all a responsibility of the City of Murfreesboro through a loan that they're obtaining. Commissioner Farley, did you want to ask a question or answer that?
I'm answering some part of the question. That Rucker Lane's in my district. Actually, to be honest with you, I wish the county had to come up with some money on this thing, because I've been trying for a long time to get this this road widened. The City of Murfreesboro is going to fund the entire project, and it is 2013. But one of the reasons that this was put in there before was actually to get a little bargaining power, you might say, to actually get somebody else on board to help get this road widened. But that didn't work out, because it's been a long time. I know the last probably 10, 12 years I've been pushing to get this road widened and asked the county to do it, and the county wouldn't do it. So I've been more than glad it took some, and it had already been done. So.
Okay, Commissioner Peay.
Well, my point on this, and I agree wholeheartedly, you had brought that to the commission. That is one that we looked at, and then the city came in and said that they would take care of it. However, I've seen other instances, for instance, the Lane Agricultural Park, where after we had built it, the city came in and said, hey, by the way, we're going to make you put a turning lane in here. We're going to make you run another road across here. And maybe one of y'all could remember the exact amount of money that cost us. But I don't intend to vote for something that's going to cost us a lot of money on the back end after this is all said and done. And that's what I'm trying to find out from our director, whether after this construction is done, is the county going to be liable for putting turn lanes or anything else in there?
Not according to any information. Commissioner Peay.
Just points of clarification now.
I'm going to clarify something for
okay.
From my understanding is on the design from the city engineer that it's going to be 2 lanes with turn lanes in the middle of the that the city's going to be actually funding.
That's the design of the new road, I believe, on behalf of the city.
And I understand that, but basically to feel comfortable with this vote and okaying this, I mean, I want to see this in writing.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion before we have the public hearing? Questions of confirmation, Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, you talked about only 5 lots being finished at this time. Is this company that will buy it with this condition released? Have they indicated when they will start the planned residential units?
They haven't indicated a specific schedule to me, but I would imagine as the market dictated. You know, countywide, we have quite a large surplus of lots, so I don't anticipate them coming online with phase 2. It really wouldn't make much sense right now with 55 lots yet to develop in that section. So.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Demosi. Then we're going to declare the public hearing open with respect to this request on Rucker Lane. If anyone wishes to speak for or against this request, it's your opportunity to come forward and give us your statement and tell us your name and address, please.
Yes, I'm Glenn Lane, here on behalf of Pinnacle National Bank. We're the current owner of the property. I represent Pinnacle Bank. My address is Armstrong Valley Road, so I'm in Mr. Farley's district and very close to this property. I don't have anything really to add that Mr. Demosi hasn't already gone over, but I do want to be open for any questions that anybody has concerning this, I guess to help shed any light on our information for you.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that. So they appear to be understanding the request. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak regarding this project? Okay, if there's no one else wishing to speak, we'll declare the public hearing closed. And is there a motion considering this request? Commissioner Farley.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
And is there a second? Commissioner Sandlin. Now discussion. Commissioner Peay.
I'd like to make an amendment that any construction costs due to the new road going through there be picked up by the developer. I'd like to make that an amendment to Mr. Farley's motion.
Let's see now. I'll need to get that properly worded. Do I have a second to that? Then I'll see if we can word it. Who was that, please? Commissioner Phillips. All right. Now, Commissioner Peay, I believe you understand you want to make this approval conditioned on the fact that any road improvements that might be required by the city of Murfreesboro be absorbed by the developer and owner. Is that correct? Would that be a fair statement? Okay. Let me see if Mr. Robertson can get that properly worded. All right. I believe all right, Mr. Robertson, are you finished with that?
That's pretty close, sir.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve this request, subject to that any road improvements that might be required by the city be the burden of the developer. That's the amendment, and we do have a second for that. And Commissioner Sandlin?
Yes, since you've got a second, I was just going to discuss it just a minute if you're ready.
Yes, sir. Ready for discussion on the amendment?
I don't really think we can do that. You're incorporating the city and the developer that we have no part of. You know, the city said that they're going to do the road, whether it's a 3-lane, 4-lane, 6-lane, 1 wide lane. We don't have any. That's the city's deal. And so I understand where the commissioner's coming from, because it has happened to us before, as far as the city come back and say that we got to do something on our property. But this isn't our property. This isn't our project. This come through the county because it's in the county, but we have nothing to do with the road. And this is a city road, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Commissioner Jernigan.
I was fixing to say about the same thing. He said because city engineers come before the road board out there and stated that they fixing to widen the road 3 lanes all the way through. I don't know why we ain't getting into this period. I mean, it don't make sense if we vote this. We may be turning around and vote something that it just don't make sense to me.
Okay. Commissioner Peay?
Well, it didn't make sense for me for the city to turn around and add costs to us after we had already had, you know, the improvements made over on the Lane Agriculture Park. And yes, I concede the part that we do on that property. However, I'm just trying to ensure that we don't incur any other costs that a developer should take up. And I don't think this is going to hurt it one way or the other than protect the county. Thank you.
Commissioner Jernigan.
I think if you go back and look at Lane Ag Center, it's totally different. It was a county road, and then when the city tried to expand right there, we was building that right there, and it was agreed on that we'd had the turn lanes when we built it.
Okay, Commissioner Jordan.
Well, I guess I'll weigh in too. I'm a little uneasy with the amendment because it's pretty open-ended. What if the city doesn't improve this road for 5 years and the city decides it needs paving out there? Do we go back and if it's built out in 20 years or whatever? And you know, the bank's trying to market a piece of property. They're trying to get some money into our economy going forward. And here, this could mess their deal up and maybe get some jobs going and some money flowing. And I can see where they're coming from. This whole road could get pushed back even more because Veterans Parkway is in pretty close proximity. The city's made it apparent that's their next project. They're working out there today, and I hope it doesn't. But Commissioner Farley, that road could be another 10 years, and this thing could be held up. So I'm gonna vote no on the amendment, but yes on the motion.
Okay, we have the amendment before us. We're discussing the amendment. Commissioner Peay?
Well, just to remind you of Florence Road. What is it? How many more millions did we end up spending on it? I just want to make sure that the county doesn't have more money going into this. And I'm all for the development going in. That's great. I want it to help our economy, but I don't think that the citizens of this county need to pay any individuals out of our pocket for development out in the county that's causing more traffic.
Well, in either event, Commissioner Peay, no money can be spent until the Board of Commissioners were to approve it, if even we were requested to do that. So that would probably stop the process. Commissioner Schaefer?
I think there's two things, because this situation is not like Florence Road, in which we went in with the city on that, and they were the ones that were in charge of the process, and we agreed with them that we'd split the cost.
Right.
It wound up. As to John Rice Boulevard, we knew that the city was going to upgrade that road and that we were going to be liable for some things. We just did not believe it was, well, it was worth as much as it costs, let's put it that way.
Okay, we've had a thorough discussion here. Commissioner Jernigan?
I'm going to say one more thing. I'm through. This road has been tucked in by the city. So I don't see how we would even have nothing to do with it. They've took it over and been taking care of it for over a year.
Okay, and now Commissioner Peay.
They've taken it in. They've taken in Halls Hill Pike, parts of it. They've taken in parts of a lot of other roads, East Main, but they are not annexing off the right-of-way. If they expand that road or say, hey, we're going to require you to put a turn lane in here, and that's county land there, I can see them coming in here and saying, hey, this is county property. I think y'all need to ante up. I've seen them come across too many times getting in our pockets, and that's what I'm trying to prevent right now.
Commissioner Farley.
I think the difference is that's county land. When you say county land, the Lane Agri Park was county-owned property. These other parts would be citizenry-owned property. I think it's two different things. The city of Murfreesboro is the one that's going to be funding this entire project. And I'm glad it's going to be taken care of. It should have been taken care of a long time if if the commissioner would have went along at that time, but it didn't. That's hindsight being 2020. But we're now in the future. The city of Murfreesboro is going to fund this in 2013. Once they get through with Veterans Parkway, they were hoping that Veterans Parkway would take a lot of the traffic off of Rooker Lane, because Rooker Lane was going to have to, the utilities and stuff were going to have to be moved. They were going to have to basically shut down Rooker Lane to local traffic. Now it's a cut through. They're going to shut down the local traffic only to get this road taken care of. So that's why they want to do Veterans Parkway first.
Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call for the question.
Second. All in favor of the call for the question, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, we're going to vote on the amendment first. And being that we've had this much discussion, please cast your votes on the amendment.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
1 yes, 19 no. Motion fails.
Okay, now we're ready to vote on the motion itself to approve the request as on the property on Rucker Lane. Please, well, I think we'll just do a voice vote. All of you in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? No. Let the record reflect there's one no vote. Thank you very much. Now next we have some discussion regarding a zoning resolution amendment in that a proposal to amend our sign regulations. Mr. Demosi.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you. Our 2010 work schedule for the Planning Department identifies amendments to the sign regulations as one of the items to be completed. The county's current sign regulations are dated, and no significant revision has been made in over 10 years. We do have a presentation. I'll try to make this as brief and interesting as possible. I understand that most normal people outside of planners don't enjoy talking about sign regulations. So again, we'll try to make this as interesting as possible for you. I did put a copy of the presentation on your tables. It's going to look a little different than I've got one per slide, or one slide per page, but you're going to have 3 per page. So we're just going to kind of go through the process that we went through and hit the major points of the sign regulations, and from there we'll be happy to answer any questions, and we'll just kind of see where this goes. Okay, if you could move it to the next slide, and Mr. Robertson's going to be my pointer or clicker guy to help me out with this. Thank you. We're going to have 4 discussion points during this presentation. We're going to talk about what the goals of the project and the process were to get us where we are today. Give you an outline of the major changes. Again, it's a fairly about 16, 17 pages worth of text, but we'll try to hit the high points. Discuss the additional amendments that are also a part of this discussion tonight, and then have time for a question and answer. Next slide, please. There were 3 primary goals for this project. The first one was to modernize the regulations. Again, as I stated a little earlier, the sign code had not been significantly amended in over 10 years. Sign law, as well as sign technology, has evolved over this time, and staff felt that it was a good time to consider comprehensive amendments to our sign regulations because of those issues. The second is to explore the use of what we're calling automatic changeable copy signage. This point really follows along from the first point about sign technology evolving. When we're talking about automatic changeable copy, we're talking about basically digital signage. Staff has received comments about possibly allowing digital signage, or what is also called dynamic signage. We have included allowances for this, and we'll elaborate on this a little later in the presentation. The third point is content neutrality. Simply put, content neutrality basically asks the question, do you have to look at the message to determine whether or not the rule applies? And if the answer is yes to that question, you have a content-based regulation that could possibly face legal scrutiny. We have reworked many of our current regulations to make them as content neutral as possible. There are some differences as far as the square footage of allowable signage is concerned, but for the most part, we either left it alone or actually increased what was allowed, and we'll point out the differences as we go. Next slide, please. So I guess the big question is, how did we get here to where we are today? We started research for this project in spring of 2009. Basically, got information from the American Planning Association, reviewed a number of different ordinances from around the state and country. January 25th of this year, there was a presentation to the Planning Commission just regarding different sign types. March 22nd, we had a sign presentation by Dr. Eric Kelly. That name may not mean a lot to most of you, but in planning circles, he's one of the foremost experts in sign law in the country. We also had a workshop at the Planning Commission for our first draft on May 24th of this year. July 12th, we had a public hearing at the Planning Commission, August 23rd, we had a second workshop at the Planning Commission to work out a lot of the questions that we had from the July 12th meeting. And then September 13th, the Planning Commission recommended approval of what you have before you today. The next slide, please. Going into the outline of the major changes, as you can see, what I've done is I've put the sections on there, as well as the pages that you can find them on the draft that's in your agenda materials. The first of those is sections 20.00 and 20.01. Those are the purpose and intent and definitions. I'm not going to go into every single change, just kind of give you just a quick overview. We did update our purpose and intent, again, to modernize and to clarify. Also, in our definition section, we updated the current definitions we had and added new ones to coincide with our new regulations. Again, if you have any specific questions on any of those, just feel free to ask, and we'll gladly be talk to you about those. Next slide, please. In section 20.02, our general provisions, on pages 4 through 7, we added what's called a substitution clause. This allows the substitution of non-commercial signage for any allowed commercial signage, basically a non-commercial message in an area that allows commercial messages. Most planning literature we recommend or reviewed strongly recommended this clause in our sign regulations, and ours did not have that. Our non-conforming sign section was also cumbersome and difficult to enforce. Again, we shortened and updated that. Also, we added a section on what are called changeable copy signs, and that's where we're placing our regulations on the digital or the dynamic signage. Next slide, please.
Mayor, can I ask a question about that
yes, sir.
section?
Commissioner Peay.
If you'd flip back one time. The changeable copy signs, the only thing that concerns me, and I've heard this a couple of times, are these animated signs, basically what I'm asking, are they moving pictures in the signs?
I'll actually address that here in just a minute, but to answer your question quickly right now, no, they're not animated, but I'll show you, I'll get into the...
Y'all are not anticipating approving anything with animation in
No, we specifically excluded that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You can go back to the next slide. Thank you. The first thing we did was define changeable copy. You see we have two definitions there. The automatic changeable copy and then the manual. The manual are the kind of like the boards you'd see out there with somebody that's taking out the letters and putting the letters in. And I've said this at the Planning Commission as someone that had to change those out with one of those big poles, standing out in freezing rain one day, getting cold and wet. I would have wished we'd had automatic changeable copy during that time, but unfortunately we didn't. But these definitions were actually provided to us by Dr. Kelly, the ones that he recommended. You'll notice also that we don't mention any technology types in the changeable copy automatic section, like digital or anything like that. Really, that's due to changing technologies. If someday in the future digital is not the method and it's plasma or something like that, then this is still an accurate definition. That doesn't have to be updated. Next slide, please. Just real quick, there's some changeable copy provisions, most of these dealing with automatic. The first being that if there's any kind of a malfunction with the automatic display, it has to be equipped, the sign has to be equipped to freeze the device in one position and also to immediately discontinue the display if it malfunctions. Only one contiguous automatic changeable copy area is allowed. All signs containing this type of signage have to be equipped with a mechanism that automatically adjusts the brightness in response to light ambient conditions. Next slide, please. And this, I think, Commissioner Peay gets into some of the concerns you had. All messages must change instantaneously without any special effects. The messages displayed have to be static and complete in themselves without any continuation in content to the next message or any other sign. The sign containing the changeable copy shall not contain any commercial messages other than those relating to the business on which it's located. And messages cannot change more frequently than 8 seconds for time and temperature displays and then 30 seconds for all other messages. When we first looked at this, we were actually looking at 5 minutes, and quite frankly, the regulations we looked at for the time frame kind of ran the gamut from 8 seconds all the way up to 25 minutes. We even saw one that said you could change it, I think it was 6 times in a 24-hour period. So it pretty much ran the gamut of time frames. But we settled on, and this was something else that Dr. Kelly recommended, 30 seconds for any other messages except time and temperature, which would be 8 seconds. Okay, next slide, please. We have a list of prohibited signs on page 7. I won't go into all those. You can follow along with in your draft there. You will notice, though, at item S, this was an amendment that was made to our sign regulations currently back in December of last year, which basically says that any sign that's not specifically allowed is prohibited. We have left that in there. The situation that we run into sometimes, or have the potential to run into, is if we get an application for a sign type that we don't regulate, kind of makes it difficult for staff to adequately regulate it. So this would give us an opportunity to craft regulations that aren't in this new draft. Okay, next slide, please. In section 20.04, we go into our allowed signage, which is on pages 8 through 12. We have 2 primary categories: signs which are allowed in all zoning districts without a permit, and then signs allowed by zoning district which are with a permit required, which would be residential, commercial, industrial, and PUDs. One of the items that we really had a lot of discussion on, and the signs allowed in all zoning districts, had to do with non-commercial flags, flags like for government, U.S. flags, those kind of things. Originally, we were proposing to limit the size and the number of those flags, but after discussion, the Planning Commission recommended that we just allow them with no regulations as far as the number or the square footage. So you'll see that in there, and I know that was a concern that several of the commissioners had, so that was addressed. Next slide, please. Just some of the major changes for signage in residential districts. External lighting and changeable copy, both manual and automatic, are allowed for legally established non-residential uses, such as institutional uses, daycares, churches, those kind of things. That would be allowed up to 25% of the sign area, just 25%. We'd also make allowances for wall and flag signage commercial, I should clarify that, commercial flag signage also for legally established non-residential uses which are currently not permitted. The reason for the external lighting allowed in residential areas for those type uses is typically the BZA approves requests made to them regarding lighted signs. So that's something that we've seen quite a few applications on. We thought we would handle that in this manner. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Mr. Farley.
Doug, when you say commercial flag signage, can you define that? Because, for example, the issue that the city got involved in on the sign at the car wash, is that commercial?
Well, that was more because of the size of the flag, that was an American flag. What I'm thinking of is if they had the name of the business on the flag, you know, or just whatever kind of a commercial message on the flag, not a governmental entity or anything.
I just want to make sure I had a clarification on the American flag versus just a regular other flag. So that the American flag is not involved in a commercial
No, sir.
flag. Okay.
No, sir. Next slide, please, Mr. Robertson. Thank you. Changes for some further signage. I'm sorry. Yeah, changes for signage to residential districts a little further on. Again, the wall signage, we would allow 3 square feet for every 1 linear foot of building, but not to exceed 40 square feet. Again, this is just for legally established non-residential uses. And then flag signs, this is, again, commercial flags, 2 per lot maximum with 32 square feet for flag. Next slide, please. Some of the major changes for signage in commercial and industrial districts. Again, the changeable copy, both manual and automatic permitted, but only up to 50% of the sign area instead of 25. Originally, we were looking at 35% for this, but after discussion, we upped that to 50. There's also provisions for multiple tenant structures, which we currently don't address in our regulations. We also added provisions for awning, canopy, and flag signage, which there are no provisions for, again, commercial flags. And then wall signage would be determined by wall area. Next slide, please. Awning signs, again, just as some more changes, shall not exceed 18 square feet, 1 sign allowed per door or window, and then for multi-tenant, 1 per tenant. And then this sign type would be deducted from the allowable wall signage. So they couldn't have all this awning signage and then the same amount of wall signage. That would be deducted from what they were allowed. Okay. Next slide, please. Canopy signs, basically what we're anticipating here are like gas canopies, something like that. 1 sign per canopy face. They cannot exceed 15 square feet per face, and they shall not extend beyond the vertical edge of the canopy. Okay, next slide, please. Again, flag signs for commercial messages only, 3 per lot maximum, 32 square feet per flag maximum, and then 24 feet in height maximum. Okay, next slide. One of the, and this was a later addition as well, interstate interstate on-site ground signs. These are like the larger signs you would see near an interstate interchange. Not billboards, but this is just for actually advertising the businesses on the property itself. We'd allow 1 per lot maximum, which would not exceed 200 square feet in area or 120 feet in height. Changeable copy permitted up to 100%. There are additional standards basically relating to how close or how far they can be from the interchange, how close they can be to the right-of-way, and also how close they can be to residentially zoned property. Next slide, please. We do continue to regulate billboard signs. Most of the regulations really did remain unchanged. They are limited to I-24. We're not proposing to allow them on 840. One of the bigger discussion points we had on this, staff originally was proposing 1 billboard per lot. However, after discussion, we just went with the 1,000-foot spacing as was already regulated in our zoning resolution. So.
Commissioner Farley.
On the issue that you just talked about on the billboard signs, I know Don Wright was in the sign business. He came and spoke to the planning commission while I was on there. Mm-hmm. Refresh my memory. That was the concern he had.
That's correct.
Okay,
yeah.
And so that's in there.
That took care of his concern. Yes, sir. We do address signage in planned development districts. Basically, we just ask them to be, or we require them to be consistent with the uses present. If they're residential uses, then they meet the residential section. Commercial or industrial, they would just meet those. as many planned developments as we get, which are relatively few, this should be adequate to handle that. Next slide, please. Our temporary signage on pages 12 and 13. We simplified our temporary sign regulations and also eliminated sign type distinctions. Our existing regulations differentiated between political signs, real estate signs. Basically what we've done here is just we regulate all temporary signage the same. There is no differentiation at this point on what we're proposing. Next slide, please. Section 20.06, permitting procedures. We've added more detailed criteria and timeframes for sign permit application and review. Most of the planning literature we reviewed concerning signs strongly encourage having very specific guidelines and timeframes for application review. While our existing regulations did have them, our proposed ones are more detailed and I think are more clearly outlined. And we're almost done, I promise. Next slide, please. Section 20.07, enforcement and appeals. We've added special criteria for sign variance requests. Our current regulations do not have any requirements specifically for sign variance requests. They rely on the same criteria that bulk variances like setbacks, height, those kind of things use. A lot of those don't typically apply to sign variances, so we've come up with some requests, or some criteria specifically for sign variances. And then section .2008, severability. Again, this is a severability clause basically saying if any section in here is found to be unconstitutional, it's basically the rest of the code is still fine. That one particular section is maybe removed, but the rest of it is fine. And again, most planning literature we reviewed recommended having that in your sign regulations. Next slide, please. The additional amendments under consideration, and these should be part of the public hearing as well. Section 1.05, under prohibited uses, we would delete that particular section dealing with the signage. Under section 2.02, we would delete the definitions that you have listed in your agenda materials. The reason we would delete those is because the definitions we're proposing to use in here would be included in the section for the signage itself. So that we wouldn't need the ones in section 2.02. Of course, what we're asking to vote on today is the section as a whole, section 20. So you would be asked to basically delete and replace it with what we're proposing. And then finally, section 21.04, that's a section dealing with nonconformities, nonconforming signs. This would be redundant at this point. There's no reason to have it in 21.04, it's going to be in our new sign regulations. So we would ask that you have that section deleted. Next slide. That's all we have. That's our presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. This did pass the Planning Commission with a recommendation of approval, and I believe it was unanimous.
Are there any more questions? Commissioner Peay.
I know y'all been working on this a while, and I got it out of my box this afternoon and read through it right quick. But, there are a couple things that, I'd like to look at a little bit longer. I don't feel comfortable voting on this right now. But one of the things I noticed was, like the height of some of the commercial signs and the size, it's a lot larger than any signs we had allowed in the past, and I'm concerned about that. I'd like to know, your reasoning or the criteria behind expanding that sign size so large, and then the height too seems quite larger.
Yeah, the one that we really changed the most more than anything was the interstate on-site sign. The other signs really didn't change a whole lot. Actually, I'd have to go back and look at each one, but the interstate on-site sign being 120 feet, staff had actually originally proposed 50 for that, but the Planning Commission, after hearing comments from the sign industry and also some of the concerns they had, asked that we go with the 120 foot height for that. The remaining, get my draft out here. Most of the height that we dealt with, and of course, if this is deferred, that's fine. We'll go back and look at anything that you ask. But especially in like the commercial areas, the height being 10 feet, our current regulations actually allow some areas to have 12 feet, and we kind of took that down just a tad. But I mean, did you have some in particular, Commissioner Peay, that you had some concerns with? Or was it really that one, the interstate on-site sign?
Well, that's one that jumped out. Like I said,
Sure.
I hadn't had enough time to really look at this to be able to say, hey, this is all good. I see some things that I really like, and I see some other things I don't know enough about them to feel comfortable voting on. But wasn't there somewhere in there, and I'm not finding it on the page, where you had like a 320 square foot sign? Or maybe I misread that.
Well,
what's the largest sign that
it was
you've
200
got?
square foot sign for the interstate on-site sign.
That wasn't commercial off the interstate.
Right. It was commercial. It was right near the interchanges. So I believe the regulation, let me just double check. I think it's within 2,000 feet of an interchange. I think that's right. Yeah. The sign had to be located within 2,000 foot, radius of the center of the I-24 interchange. And really, the only place this really applies at this point would be the Epps Mill Road exit in that area. And then there was the sign area shall not exceed 200 square feet, and the height shall not exceed 120.
Okay, are there any more questions before we have our public hearing? All right, thank you, Mr. Demosi. Now we'll declare the public hearing open to allow anyone that wishes to speak regarding these amendments to the zoning resolution regarding our signage. Please come forward and give us your comments and your statements. Okay, I see no one that wishes to speak, so the public hearing is closed with regard to this zoning amendment. Is there a motion? Who was that? Commissioner Phillips, and a second from Commissioner Sandlin. Now further discussion. Any further discussion? All in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? One opposed. All right, thank you. Motion carried. Now, Mrs. Ealy, I believe we can return to the Budget, Finance and Investment Committee agenda.
The next two items on our agenda comes from the Industrial Development Board, and it deals with the issuance of revenue bonds for two different projects. Starting with item J2B, a resolution preliminarily authorizing the issuance of industrial revenue bonds by the Rutherford County Industrial Development Board not to exceed $11 million for BGS LTD. And I would remind the commissioners there is no liability to the county for either of these projects. Whereas at the meeting on September 29, 2010, the Industrial Development Board of Rutherford County adopted a resolution authorizing the issuance by the Industrial Development Board of its industrial revenue bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $11 million to finance certain facilities for BGS LTD. And whereas BGS LTD owns an existing facility in Smyrna, Tennessee, with the said property being leased to the United States of America Department of Veterans Affairs for the operation of an outpatient account center. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to execute all necessary documents for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds by the Rutherford County Industrial Development Board not to exceed $11 million in accordance with a resolution duly adopted by the Industrial Development Board of Rutherford County, Tennessee. A copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Turner. Any other discussion? All right, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2C, a resolution preliminarily authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds by the Rutherford County Industrial Development Board not to exceed $150 million for the expansion of the General Mills facility. Whereas at the meeting on September 29, 2010, the Industrial Development Board of Rutherford County adopted a resolution authorizing the issuance by the Industrial Development Board of its revenue bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $150 million to finance the expansion of a dairy-based product manufacturing facility for General Mills Operations, LLC. And whereas General Mills Operations, LLC, owns an existing facility in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and proposes to expend approximately $132 million to improve that facility. Whereas the expansion will increase the number of lines in the dough and dairy-based manufacturing plant, which will add 66 employees to the current 832 employees. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are here authorized to execute all necessary documents for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds by the Rutherford County Industrial Development Board not to exceed $150 million, in accordance with a resolution duly adopted by the Industrial Development Board of Rutherford County, Tennessee, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved this 14th day of October, 2010. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jernigan, second. Is there any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2D, a resolution authorizing a contract with Deloitte LLP for professional services relating to health care reform. Whereas due to the complexity of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act of 2010, which are a part of President Obama's comprehensive health reform package, the Rutherford County Insurance Committee is requesting assistance in the interpretation of the Act and financial determinations that affect the benefits offered through Rutherford County's health insurance program. And whereas it is being proposed that Rutherford County enter into a contract with Deloitte Consulting LLP for professional services for a fee of $60,900, with the services provided to include a kickoff meeting, data collection, assumption setting, initial analysis, initial reporting of results and interactive modeling, final report, and follow-up through June 2011. And whereas the fee also includes ongoing education and availability to consult via email and conference as changes are made to the law or consideration of impacts to the medical plan is needed. Additionally, weekly updates and newsletters will be provided to educate the county about regulatory updates, as well as ongoing assistance with benchmarking and analysis of market trends. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be and is hereby authorized to execute a contract with Deloitte Consulting, LLP, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, to assist Rutherford County with the comprehensive health care reform package for a fee of $60,900 to be paid from the Employee Insurance Fund. And Commissioners, we need to add one phrase here at the end, subject to the review and written approval of the county attorney. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. I move for approval.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Jordan. Any discussion? Commissioner Farley.
How long are we going to have this contract? Is this a year contract? Is this something as long as Obamacare is around?
This is a one-time contract, and then it basically lasts through a 10-month period.
Okay, so it's 10 months only?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
Item J2E, a resolution amending the health plan document to include coverage of molded foot orthotics. Whereas at the regular meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners on April 13, 2006, a resolution was adopted to amend Rutherford County's health insurance plan document to add coverage for extracorporeal shock wave therapy, ESWT, for the treatment of musculoskeletal conditions, including plantar fasciitis. And whereas a more conservative treatment for this condition may include medically ordered custom molded foot orthotics. Whereas currently the county's health plan is written to exclude coverage for custom molded foot orthotics and to encourage more conservative treatment to occur prior to incurring the expense of ESWT. It is important that the plan support treatment that is conservative in nature and that is only available through a physician's practice. Whereas the average cost for custom molded foot orthotics is $600 prior to network discounts. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be authorized to execute all necessary documents to amend Rutherford County's health plan document to include the following language to provide coverage for custom molded foot orthotics. Custom fabricated foot orthotics as medically necessary when there is failure, contraindication, or intolerance to a prefabricated foot orthosis for any of the following conditions. Individuals with impaired peripheral sensation and or altered peripheral circulation. The foot orthosis is an integral part of a foot brace and is necessary for the proper functioning of the brace. The foot orthosis is used to compensate for a missing portion of the foot and is necessary for the alleviation or correction of illness, injury, or congenital defect. Individuals with neurologic or neuromuscular conditions producing spasticity, misalignment, or pathological positioning of the foot where there is reasonable expectation of improvement, and for the treatment of plantar fasciitis following failure of conservative treatment. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. Congratulations, Mrs. Ealy. Any discussion? Commissioner Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you for those that were involved in this decision. As someone that has someone very close to me that I love dearly that has a handicap and has had to pay for leg braces myself, this is a very real cost, and I appreciate the county and the insurance team stepping up to help families that are employed by the county with that cost, and I just wanted to say thank you publicly to that, and I absolutely am going to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, then. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2F, a resolution amending the no-show charge at the Care Here clinics. Whereas at the regular meeting on May 14, 2009, the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution implementing a no-show charge for members who fail to attend scheduled Care Here appointments and or cancel said appointments, with one missed appointment allowed and the no-show charge being payroll deducted for active employees and their family members and billed to retirees. And whereas a review of the policy indicates that missed appointments continue to persist, with 449 appointments being missed in a 7-month period of time. And of these missed appointments, 87% were employees who only missed one appointment. Whereas to further enhance the efforts to maximize the efficiency and utilization of the clinics, it is being proposed that effective January 1, 2011, the no-show policy for missed Care Here appointments be revised to provide that a $15 no-show charge be deducted by payroll for all missed appointments and by bill for retirees, beginning with the first occurrence. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that effective January 1, 2011, a $15 no-show charge be imposed to members who fail to attend scheduled Care Here appointments and or cancel said appointments, with the no-show charge to be payroll deductive for active employees and their family members and billed to retirees beginning with the first missed appointment. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Cook. Commissioner Cook, and then Commissioner Gooch.
Is this no-show or cancel appointment? Is that a 24-hour cancel appointment? I didn't see that.
Participants can cancel an appointment online or through the toll-free number up until the appointment time.
Okay. I think this should be passed. I can imagine our employees, as good as we are to them, missing appointments.
Commissioner Gooch, does that answer your question? Okay, good. Any other discussion? Commissioner Sandlin.
I asked quite a few questions and made quite a few comments in budget the other night, and just kind of confused about it, but I'm well in tune now but on this, and I think it's a good idea. But I hope all of our employees that has the insurance is notified again about what this is costing the county and what it's costing them as we get into the winter months and start going to the doctor more and more. But at least we've got some checks and balances here, I think, to so we can't be charged, from the facility for somebody either not making an appointment or whatever. This right here gives us a real good checks and balance on it. So, but if this doesn't cure the problem in say a year or something, then I think we need to charge full amount for a no-show.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2G, a resolution authorizing an endowment grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Health for the expansion of the Smyrna Health Department location. Whereas Rutherford County has been notified of an endowment grant award from the Tennessee Department of Health in the amount of $699,937, which requires no matching funds for the expansion, renovation, and increased parking for the Smyrna Health Department location for the Women's, Infants, and Children WIC program. Whereas the grant contract shall be effective for the period commencing on July 1, 2010, ending June 30, 2011. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be authorized to execute the endowment grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Health, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, in the amount of $699,937 for the expansion, renovation, and increased parking for the Smyrna Health Department location. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2H, a resolution authorizing a grant contract with the Tennessee Division of Elections for the provision of certified voting equipment. Whereas Rutherford County has been notified of a grant award from the Tennessee Division of Elections in the amount of $100,000, which requires no matching funds for the provision of certified voting equipment. And whereas the grant contract shall be effective for the period commencing on September 14, 2010 and ending June 30, 2011. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be authorized to execute the grant contract with the Tennessee Division of Elections, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, in the amount of $100,000 to provide funding for the Election Commission to lease additional certified voting machines. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2I, this item has been withdrawn. The Rutherford County has been notified that the grant will not be awarded. And for the benefit of those in the Budget Committee, this was the program that was initiated by Judge Ash, the series of videos to help litigants to assist themselves in their own representation. Item J2I, a resolution authorizing a grant application to the Administrative Office of the Courts, item J2J, I apologize, General Purpose School Fund Budget Amendment. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the General Purpose School Fund be amended as follows: Basic Education Program and ARA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Increased revenue, Basic Education Program, ARA, $6,725,500. Decreased revenue, Basic Education Program, $6,725,500. The state has informed us that they are using these ARA dollars to fund BEP. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second from Commissioner Jordan. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
Item J2K, a resolution authorizing funding for the design of Stewart's Creek High School. Whereas the Rutherford County school system is experiencing high enrollment, especially at the high school level, and projections indicate that the enrollment will continue to increase over the next several years. Whereas Smyrna High School, Laverne High School, and Riverdale High School currently have multiple portable classrooms, and it is anticipated that Blackman High School will soon require portable classrooms. And whereas multiple additions and renovations have been completed at Smyrna High School, Laverne High School, Riverdale High School, and Blackman High School, increasing the capacity at the schools to approximately 2,000 students per school. Whereas the school board has determined that a new high school is needed to relieve the overcrowding at the current high schools in the area, and funding in the amount of $1,300,000 is needed for the design phase of the Stewart's Creek High School. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that $1,300,000 be provided through internal borrowing in the school building program for the design phase of the Stewart's Creek High School. Resolved this 14th day of October, 2010. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin. Discussion. Commissioner Phillips, and then we'll go to Commissioner Jones.
I apologize if I'm a little bit out of touch. I've been on an extended vacation for a couple of weeks and just got back this afternoon. The Health and Ed Committee discussed this at length, a lot of discussion, and one of the requests from that committee was for the potential financial impact on the tax rate of the building of this school be talked about at the Budget Committee. Was that done? And I'd just like to know the results of that if that's available.
And you do have some of this, I think, in your packet, Commissioner Phillips.
Yeah, but I'd just like to kind of get to the bottom line.
We'll defer to Mrs. Nolan and give them a review. It was discussed, certainly, yes, at the budget meeting.
We discussed initially, that what is being requested was the $1.3 million, and that we did have the money internally to use for that phase of planning. Then the discussion moved to the debt service as far as, could we handle that? Do we have enough capacity in the debt service fund to handle this additional debt? Well, there are some things that were missing on the to see the whole picture, and one is we really need the whole plan. What's the whole plan? Not just the school before us, but what are the other needs that the schools will need, in addition to what are the other things in the county? Not just the schools, but all the county needs. Now, along with that, we've had a refunding that we've talked about over and over and over. That finally was accomplished, and you'll see an amendment later on tonight discussing the refunding that this body approved. I guess it was in April, that we finally did it in September. The result of that refunding is that we have about $5.7 million in savings, and we structured that savings to hit not this year, but the next 3 years. Now we have an additional refunding plan to do in December that hopefully will result in additional savings that will give you additional capacity in the debt service to be able to fund the high school. So, these are the things that we went over, and I believe that the schools were requested to come back with their plan so that we can further develop the effect that the borrowing will have on debt service. And then Mr. Sandvig was able to provide some information on the cost of schools. Of course, that's 3 years from now. The one thing that was brought up is just this amendment that we did previously is what is before us next year is the state having, using so much of the state, the federal ARA money to help, to pay for the BEP this year. Though Mr. Sandvig and I both attended a conference last week that they touched on that, and one of the economists felt like, well, the only way that the state would be able to do that, if necessary, they'll have to hit rainy day fund. And I believe that's, Mr. Sandvig discussed that the state was intending to fully fund the BEP. So that was the discussion, I think.
Okay. Did that answer some of your questions? And I think over the course of the next several months, then there's going to be a lot more discovery before you actually approve the construction of the building. What we're doing here is going ahead and allowing them to move forward in a timely manner with the design of the structure. Commissioner Jones.
Before personally touring the schools, I wondered why we couldn't do additions to the school buildings. But then, of course, after touring them, I understood the situation that the schools were in. And there's no doubt in my mind that a new high school out there is needed based on the numbers and the projected growth, and also looking at the situation that the current schools are in right now. With that said, though, I have promised people in my district that I will not vote for a tax increase. And so therefore, right now, I cannot support a school because we do not have we're not positive that we can pay for it. But understanding that over the next 3 years we could still use this plan, I want to support the $1.3 million, but I want everybody to understand that I cannot support building the school without knowing where the money is going to come from. And so I just wanted to make it clear where I was at right now in that decision, and want everybody to make sure that they know that I do support this building, but I cannot support a tax increase.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Sandlin.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be appropriate if I suspended the rules and allow Mr. Samick as well as the superintendent of schools to speak if they could shed some light on this subject here.
Do you have some specific information you'd like for them to share? Or just
well, I'll just suspend it for the school superintendent, so allow them to speak on this subject here.
Okay. Have a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second? Or any objection to suspending the rules? If not, we will allow Mr. Gill to speak, and he can convey any additional information he wishes to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. I don't know that Ms. Nolan mentioned this. She may have, and I may not have heard it. Also, we're committed to funding through our fund balance the operating costs, so that would not result in any additional tax increase either. We'll work towards that over the next 2 years. I think we estimate the opening cost to be about $3.6 million, or in the vicinity of that. I want to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding of what we're confronted with. A no vote on proceeding with the building of a high school is going to result in the need for, based on 3% growth, 58 additional classroom portables to be purchased, portables we don't have, by the year 2013. Those will be spread between Blackman, Laverne, and Smyrna. Approximately 43 to 45 of those will go to Smyrna or Laverne. And understand, please, as I think Commissioner Ealy said, those schools were built in 1987 for 800 kids. They've been expanded 3 times to 2,000, and they're landlocked. There is no place to put portables, in particular at Laverne, other than in the parking lots. And you can imagine what a disaster that would be. These are real numbers based on the current 6th through 9th grade enrollment that we have at those schools. There will be, right now, Smyrna and Laverne use 14 portables between them. They have 8 to 10 roving teachers. They've converted every closet, every nook and cranny has been converted into a teaching area. Every student they pick up now, in terms of 20 to 25, results in a portable. I mean, it's really gotten desperate there with respect to teaching. And we've said this many times before. I know you're proud of your school system. I know you support it as best you could. But with all the mandates and all the federal sanctions, we've got to maximize learning opportunities at those schools. So I'd encourage you to certainly support the design. We can get started on that. It takes 5 to 6 months to design the building. We're doing that. What we intend to do is to rebuild Siegel. That's a prototype, so we'll get that at 3% cost. And I know people think that $1.3 million is a lot of money, but there's a lot of design goes into that. We're getting a real bang for our bucks there. And I would encourage you to support this. I just don't see how the school system can survive without a high school by 2013. Our intention was to have one by 2012. We put that off. We have no portables to move. We're in dire straits with respect to building a new high school in Rutherford County.
Commissioner Farley.
I've got a question for Mr. Gill. Mr. Gill, Blackman High School and Riverdale High School, I've got children in my area that go to those 2 high schools. Blackman High School's got 2,199 kids. Riverdale High School's got 2,130 kids. I think at Riverdale there's 17 portables right now.
Maybe more, yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
How will this high school affect the 2 high schools that the kids that I represent? How is that going to decrease those numbers and to make me want to vote for this high school?
Well, actually, and I'll give you this, Commissioner Farley, where you can study it. I've got a copy that we disseminated at both Health and Ed and Budget. Stewart's Creek is the midpoint between all four schools. All four schools need relief, and of course, as you mentioned, Riverdale does as well. What the plan is with respect to Riverdale is probably to rezone the Casey Lane area back to Blackman, and we'll probably take, I think we're going to take as many as 600 or 700 out of Blackman that basically sits on top of Stewart's Creek or sits on 1 Mile Lane, all that area. So it was a midpoint. It minimized travel. It was pretty much a no-brainer with respect to where the school ought to go, because it would offer relief to 4 separate schools. And I'll be happy to sit down and show you that. I know you don't have to vote on it, whether you're going to build the school or not, only the plan. And as Commissioner Jordan said, you know, we know we're going to build it. We know the board wants to build it. We can internally borrow to build this, so we've got to get moving with the design. Otherwise, we're effectively stymied having it done by the year 2013.
Let's see, Commissioner McAdoo would be next, and then Commissioner Jones.
On the 1.3 million, I guess what I'm asking, why do we have to decide on it tonight when all I've heard is if and then and maybe an possibility from the state? Why can't we wait until we get some concrete information from the state on what they are going to fund us in the next fiscal year? I guess the only thing I'm concerned about is that this is an election year, and it's going to be a lot of changes made from that meeting you attended, probably with the way the election go. And I'm just concerned about obligating myself to 1.3 million now when I can wait a month or 2 months and see basically how the state and everybody's going to go. That's my only concern about funding this 1.3 million tonight.
Well, the simple answer is it takes 6 months to design it, and we've got to start construction. It's a 2-year project to build the school, so we need to get started in May, a minimum 2 years, so we can have it ready by August 2013. Of course, where you sit determines where you stand on this issue. The frightening thing for me is, and again, these are on real numbers based with 3% growth, and everybody in this room knows that I don't know that we've ever had any less than 3%. Maybe one year we had 2, but we've also had 5. But by the year 2013, between those 4 high schools, it's very feasible that we'll have as many as 1,400 or 1,500 kids between Riverdale, Blackman, Smyrna, and Laverne stuck outside in portables. Now, do we really want that? I mean, is that what this community is all about? Is that what we want our kids to have? And we can't, I don't think we have the luxury of delaying, because, again, it's going to take a good 6 months to start the design. We start building in May. 2 years, 2 years and a month or 2 out, we're ready to open that school. So, you know, the timeline's pretty strict.
Commissioner Jones.
I realize we're not voting on the school tonight, but I want to make sure that I heard this correctly because it'll make me feel better about voting yes tonight. Did you say that the operating cost after the school is opened, the operating costs will be funded out of school board money? You'll just move some money around. Did I hear that correctly?
Well, actually, out of fund balance, yes, which is what we did this year with the 2 middle schools. As you recall, you guys anticipated how much, 17-cent tax increase to open those 2 middle schools?
Was it about $4 million?
Yeah, which 17 cents on tax rate this year. And we, the school board, through our fund balance, opened those, and there was no tax increase to the taxpayer as a result of that. And we can do the same thing. We feel confident we'll do the same thing for the high school. And if debt service absorbs, if we can handle it there, is what Ms. Nolan, I think the mayor said, I don't think it'll result in a tax increase to the taxpayer. But I want to make one more point. Do we want to have 1,400 or 1,500 kids stuck outside in portables in inclement weather that are changing classes every 50 minutes, where there are safety issues, where their cars are close by, where they can hop in their car and run downtown and go here and go there and come back when they please? It's just, they deserve more.
Well, all due respect, Mr. Gill, I don't think anybody here does. personally, but I think the issue is the tax increase. But I just want to make sure that the yearly operating costs will be funded already. So Mr. Burgess's concern at Health and Ed meeting is null and void, right?
Well, there are a lot of moving pieces here, Mrs. Jones, and they're hopeful and that they can, over the course of 3 years, accumulate enough additional monies in their fund balance that they'll have at least $3.4 million to fund that opening of that school. And I think that's likely if we continue to fund their budget fully like we've been funding it. There's some other moving pieces that we're all concerned about, including Mr. Gill and Mr. Sandvig, as to what the state of Tennessee will do. We just don't know how this will really turn out with respect to the replacement of this ARA money. So I think what we're seeing is here we have a bit of time over the course of the next several months to determine if there are major changes in BEP funding, and if that were to occur, we'll all have to work together. Commissioner Sandlin.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is in District 9. It's we already have Stewart's Creek Elementary, Stewart's Creek Middle. We've bought this property as a campus-type school, so we're talking about minimal grading because we've already done the grading there. Sewer's there, so we don't have that expense. So it's the price of the school in operation, of course. With the project that's already headed our way for Nissan, that they're already talking about, where are those people going to live? Primarily in the northern end of the county, in this area. So with these high schools already at their levels, then what is that going to do? It's just going to spill over more. And we're prepared. This economy has kind of, I don't want to say we're ahead of the curve, but we've kind of been doing some catching up where ever since I've been here, we've been behind in school building. And I think that's been from the school board's foresight as well as the county commission's foresight in building a school a year or every 2 years and trying to get us either, if we're not equal, at least right there at the curve. So before this new growth starts coming on, these new businesses, we just had, I think, Pillsbury just say that they were getting ready to do an expansion here too, you know, on the yogurt plant or something. So that's more growth there. They'll probably end up in Murfreesboro. Commissioner probably come in, you know, some of your area, you know, but it's going to affect the whole school system altogether as a whole. So we're talking about design here. We've got a good design. I'd hope you would vote for funding the design money at this point in time so we don't run this thing behind. In January, I think the school board is going to bring us some more numbers, and let's start looking forward whether we're going to bond market or not to actually borrow the money and get this school started. But I think this will help us out in the long run here for many years. Not that we'll ever be done. They haven't closed the gates to Rutherford County, so we're still going to be growing. And we're very thankful to be in this Middle Tennessee area and growing the way we are. But I appreciate your vote on this for the design phase.
Do we have any further questions of Mr. Gill while we have him up here? We're continued questions of Mr. Gill. Mr. Schaefer.
Well, I just want some more clarification on what Mr. Gill said about the operating costs in 2013-14, that the school board will have it for that year, but 2014-2015, they're not going to have it out of ending fund balance, are they?
Well, what additional, I mean, there's growth money that comes with kids, but I mean, the operational cost would be for 2013. You know, I don't know how, like the mayor said, I don't know what the BEP holds in 2014. But we're committed to having $3.6 million out of fund balance to open the school so that there's not a tax increase.
Okay. Ms. Allen, you want to address Mr. Gill?
Mr. Gill, I know no one in the north end of the county disagrees that we need a new high school up there, but there are concerns that as soon as this school opens, that immediately it will put Smyrna and Laverne into high poverty schools. And you were able to address that for me at Health and Ed. Can you address that here a little bit for this group, what that means for those schools and those students?
Yeah. I'd address that two ways. I've talked to both principals. Of course, they both said they'd rather have a higher poverty rate than 1,800 kids than a lower poverty rate than 2,500 kids because they just simply can't absorb those kind of numbers. But hopefully we can do some creative zoning, similar to what we did with Oakland Middle, Buchanan Middle, Rockville Middle, Christiana Middle, so that we disseminated kids based on the free reduced population and didn't terribly inflate our transportation costs. But I know the board will be committed to trying to balance those numbers as best possible. I don't know if it's totally possible given the location where some kids live. You know, we still like neighborhood schools, but I think we're all committed to trying to have schools that are reflective of the entire community in lieu of one school having a high poverty rate and another school not. But we'll do our best to balance those out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jernigan.
Go over them figures again on what relief from Smyrna and Laverne each school would relieve them.
Okay, what will happen is, you know, we anticipate if we don't build a school, Smyrna and Laverne, if they were equally divided, would have roughly 2,500 students. Blackman would have, with 3% growth, 2,500. If they don't have 3% growth, so it would be a little bit less. Riverdale probably be around the 2,400 number two. Now, when we zone, we would take out of Laverne High School, 610 would go to Stewart's Creek, which would bring that number to 1,934. Out of Smyrna, we would take 601, 610 out of Laverne to Stewart's Creek, 601 out of Smyrna to Stewart's Creek, which drops Smyrna back to 1,542, but we would move 335 back out of Blackman, and these are very tentative. We haven't drawn the lines. But we take 335 out of Blackman and get Smyrna 1877. Riverdale, we'd get Riverdale to 1777 at Blackman, and Riverdale 1900. So in retrospect, all those schools will be pretty close to at capacity when they open. You'd have 1934 at Laverne, 1877 at Smyrna. You'd have 1739 at Stewart's Creek, roughly 1,800 at Blackman, and 1,900 at Riverdale. That's with a new school. They're already at capacity.
Commissioner Peay.
Since many of you are looking at figures, one thing that you hadn't mentioned is the cost of these portables. And to buy a portable and set up one portable, that's close to $50,000, isn't it? Or am I way off?
I think it's $60,000 to purchase one.
Well, if you're going to need 58 of them, you need to be figuring out where you're going to spend or find $3 million for portables if you don't vote on putting these schools in.
Right. Yeah, we figure we need $2.6 million to buy new portables if we don't build a school.
Okay.
We're already operating with 130 portables.
Other questions? Okay, thank you then, Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
Now, did you, Commissioner Farley, let's see, we have a motion, a second. Now we are on the motion of discussing that. Is that correct?
Correct. The $1.3 million that we're discussing is talking about the design phase. All we're committing to tonight is the design of this school, this high school. By voting for this, we're not committing to the entire project. That's correct. Is that correct? Thank you.
Commissioner Phillips.
Just to clarify one more time, to follow up on what Commissioner Farley just said, and maybe what Commissioner Jones said a little earlier, the $1.3 million is internal money. It's not new money that we're looking at, correct? It's coming internal to the school system, so they're not asking for new money. And if next spring, when it comes time to vote on this high school, if we decided not to do it because of external things, state funding and those types of things, if we decided not to do it, would this $1.3 million be wasted, or would we have the opportunity to delay it for a year or 2 years or whatever and still be able to use that same design?
I believe it's been uniformly agreed that that $1.3 million is an investment that we can use at some point in the future, whether it's right now or next year or a year after. It's going to be at the proper site. That site's not going to change, and the design of that will fit that site, and it will be a perfectly good investment to use later if we decided you wanted to do that.
So it is not new money, and it won't cost us anything, and if we decide not to build next spring, whenever we did decide to build, we could still use that same $1.3 million bucks.
That's what's been indicated certainly by Mr. Clardy and Mr. Gill, yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several issues with this. The first one is we keep hearing, like Mr. McAdoo said, maybes, what ifs, hopefullys, and things like this. But assuming the state does not give us that $6.5 million that the Obama money that we just used this year, how much of a tax increase would that be just to cover that if they don't give it to us?
Roughly 10 cents.
Okay. So if they don't give us that, and if our economy doesn't improve and we have to fund this high school too, how much would that add to the tax increase?
Well, our tax, our penny is about 600,000 plus, so 5 cents more.
Okay. Somebody needs to advocate for the people on Social Security who didn't get a raise this year. We have people on disability income, people that are in bankruptcy and foreclosures. If we raise their property taxes, I mean, we're going to have more people that might lose their homes. I just can't support this, not knowing what the state's going to do with that $6.5 million. And this $1.3 million that we have, we might need that to fund that gap. We've got to do that first. I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. And also, I've been talking to people in my district who are very concerned about the zoning. I don't know that we're going to be able to do all this magical zoning to get the socioeconomic balance. And I would like to see more of that before we vote for this too. So I'm going to vote no to start on the project. I think that we do need a new high school in a few years, but I just don't feel like this is the right year to do it because of our budget.
Any other discussion before we vote? Hearing no one wishing to speak, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
17 yes, 3 no. Motion passes.
Item J2L, General Debt Service Fund Budget Amendment. Mrs. Nolan, our Finance Director, alluded to this earlier in reminding the Commissioners that in April of 2010, the County Commission approved a resolution authorizing a refunding, and our financial advisors have been working and watching the market to see when the conditions were favorable to recommend a refunding. That refunding did take place in September, and this budget amendment is the result of that refunding, and the result is it saved our debt service payments of $5.7 million. And that is what the Finance Director was referring to earlier when she said those will be spread out over 3 years to give us some flexibility in our debt service. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the General Debt Service Fund be amended as follows. Refunding debt issued, increased revenue, refunding debt issued, $88,800,000. Premium on debt sold, $16,067,936. Increased general government debt service, underwriters discount, $68,820. Other debt issuance charges, $24,188. Increase education debt service, underwriters discount, $375,180. Other debt issuance charges, $131,863. Increased payments to refunded debt escrow agent, other debt service, $104,267,885. Resolved this 14th day of October, 2010. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Schaefer. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item J2M, a resolution on employment of legal services for the defense of Rutherford County Sheriff's Department. We are operating under our new legal services agreement, so this resolution will reflect that. Whereas a lawsuit has been filed against the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department styled Luis Gonzalez Calderon versus Truman Jones in his official capacity as Sheriff of Rutherford County and his individual capacity. Bob Asbury in his official capacity as Chief Deputy and Administrator of Detention in the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and his individual capacity. Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Rutherford County, Tennessee, Michaela Black, John Doe 1, John Doe 2, and John Doe 3 in their official capacities as employees of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and individually. United States District Court for the Middle District of Tennessee at Nashville, case number 3-10-0814. And whereas this case is in the Federal United States District Court in Nashville, Tennessee, and whereas the county previously utilized attorney Randy Mantooth of the law firm of Leitner, Williams, Dooley, and Napolitan, PLLC, to defend the county and its officials in certain matters in the United States Federal District Court. And whereas attorney Randy Mantooth has demonstrated expertise in the defense of certain complaints filed in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Tennessee. Whereas Mr. Mantooth's services are offered to the county at the same hourly rate as that provided for by the County Attorney Office. And whereas it is appropriate to employ attorney Mantooth in the above styled case and such other future cases as the county mayor and county attorney shall determine at the same hourly rate as presently provided for in the legal services agreement with the county attorney. Now therefore be it resolved, 1, that the Rutherford County Commission, upon recommendation of the county mayor and with the advice, approval, and consent of the county attorney, agrees that the case of Luis Gonzalez Calderon versus Truman Jones in his official capacity as Sheriff of Rutherford County and his individual capacity, Bob Asbury in his official capacity as Chief Deputy and Administrator of Detention in the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and his individual capacity, Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Rutherford County, Tennessee, Michaela Black, John Doe 1, John Doe 2, and John Doe 3 in their official capacities as employees of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and individually be assigned for defense to attorney Randy Mantooth of the law firm of Leitner, Williams, Dooley, and Napolitan, PLLC at the hourly rate of $150 per hour. 2, that certain other cases involving actions in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Tennessee may in the future be assigned to attorney Randy Mantooth of the law firm Leitner, Williams, Dooley, and Napolitan, PLLC at the hourly rate of $150 per hour upon recommendation of the county mayor and with the advice, approval, and consent of the county attorney. 3, that upon cases being assigned to attorney Randy Mantooth of the law firm Leitner, Williams, Dooley, and Napolitan, a report be made to the county commission advising of said cause. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second from Commissioner Farley. Any discussion? Commissioner Peay.
I don't know, it must be my night, but I do have a problem with this. The attorney is excellent. The rates that we're getting are excellent. But as we stated, you know, this is under our new agreement. And under our new agreement, any outside lawsuits have to be approved by the county commission, the way I understand it. And what we're doing here is allowing any future cases. And I'm not talking about this particular case. If we deleted future cases from this, I'd be all in support. But you know, the county commission, the county court, the way I understand it, is to decide when we go outside for attorneys. And that's the problem I've got with this. Unless Mr. Cope can explain something different, I'm going to have to vote no.
Commissioner Cope, not Commissioner Cope, Attorney Cope. Sorry about that.
Sometimes I wish I had a vote, so sometimes I wish I didn't have a vote. Let me address your concerns, Commissioner, and they're certainly legitimate concerns. Mr. Mantooth, particularly in the past historically, has dealt with matters involving the Sheriff's Department on inmate complaints. And these can involve all manner of things, alleged abuse by Sheriff's Department's employees and officials, not getting the kind of reading material you want, not getting the kind of food you want. And he has sort of demonstrated a history of being able to handle those very cost effectively and very efficiently. The only reason that the boilerplate language was put in here to allow additional cases to be assigned with him is that inmate cases, unfortunately, do come up in a fairly frequent range and are very numerous, and it's not unusual to get 2 or 3 a month sometimes. And rather than having a resolution read each month and naming those particular items and having you vote for a time thing, it was thought, well, this would be an efficient way of doing that. That's why paragraph 3 was put in the resolution, that we would certainly report to the commission when those cases have been assigned to Mr. Mantooth. And so that's the reason we're doing it in that fashion. But again, it's your call.
Okay, any other discussion? Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to offer an amendment to this resolution. We've got all kinds of lawsuits and frivolous things filed against the county, and I would like to add a clause that says that upon the successful resolution of a case by the county, if the county prevails, that Attorney Mantooth be directed to vigorously pursue to recoup any legal fees and court costs that would be assessed against Rutherford County.
Okay. First, we'll let Mr. Robertson write that, and then we'll read it to see if it says what the intended amendment is. All right, I can read that now. All right, the amendment is to add language to this particular motion that upon successful resolution of the case by the county, that Mr. Mantooth be directed to vigorously pursue recouping of the legal fees from the plaintiff. Is that correct, Mr. Stevens? Now, Mr. Cope, is there something you would like to add there or say?
Just a couple of comments, and again, it's entirely up to the commission, and in respecting the fact that the county does get hit with these, and they're sometimes and more often than not frivolous kind of actions. 2 things. One, I think if you could provide in there that if it's authorized by law to do so, we don't want to sue someone for legal fees if we don't have a basis for doing it. And so that would be my primary concern in terms of the form of the motion. The only other thing is that some discretion be given to Mr. Mantooth, because we're looking at the economics of this, and 9 times out of 10, the people suing you are in prison and don't have the capacity to pay anything. And if you're paying an attorney to sue somebody to collect something and you can't collect it, we're putting good money in after bad. And again, don't make that decision tonight, but allow some discretion for his part to determine whether there's any economic feasibility in pursuing that kind of action.
Okay. Let me read this after just a moment here, Mr. Stevens, and see if you would agree to this. Upon successful resolution of a case by the county, that Mr. Mantooth be directed to vigorously pursue recouping of legal fees from the plaintiff if it is legally authorized to do so, and that Mr. Mantooth use discretion to determine the economic feasibility of pursuing such action.
Okay, I'll make my motion conform to his recommendations.
All right, would the second accept that as well, Commissioner Peay? All right, so we have an amendment now. Commissioner Sandlin.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cope, would this deter maybe some of the frivolous lawsuits that we receive, with inmates knowing that they're going to be countersued then for if they lose whatever I mean, it may not. This is your opinion, of course, but I mean, I'm just saying, would it deter anything?
I don't really think so. I mean, if, just calling a spade, if you're sitting in a prison and you think you've been mistreated and you don't have anything else to do and you've got whatever minimal amount of money they are provided, they don't have a whole lot at risk. So, I understand the thrust of it is that we're imposed in this day and time in society with having to deal with these kind of things, but unfortunately the people that bring these kind of actions frequently don't have the capacity to respond to them. It makes a good statement from a policy that we don't like to have to deal with this, but economically I don't know that it would be justified. But again, I think if you'll leave discretion to the attorney, if you had somebody in there that filed such an action and they had a net worth and it could be determined that if they're a bank robber and they've hidden their money away and we can get some of it, we want to do it.
Okay, we have a motion and an amendment and a second there. Commissioner Jordan.
I like the sound of this. I'm just worried about paying this attorney additional time to go out after the money. I mean, so that's what I just want to make sure we're not spending another $10,000 trying to collect the first $10,000. And so as long as Attorney Cope feels comfortable that won't happen, then I can support this amendment.
Well, I think that Attorney Cope and others will have input into those decisions when he exercises that discretion. Clearly. Any other discussion? Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just out of curiosity, do you have a rough guess of how much money the county's actually, wasted with lawsuits like this that have come from inmates that the county's been found not guilty, and how much money we actually have wasted on defending ourselves?
Well, it would be hard to say, but it would be in the tens of thousands of dollars and maybe in excess of $100,000 easily over the last several years.
Yeah, the Sheriff's Department frequently has to deal with these kinds of items, and the Mayor's correct. It's a substantial budgetary cost.
Well, and that's, I'm like the other commissioners. I'm hoping then that at least this language and the verbiage that we use in there is going to give them a moment of pause, so to speak, before they bring something frivolous up. So thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we're voting on the amendment. We're ready to vote on the amendment. So we're just going to do this. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
Mayor Burgess, I had a glitch. 1 moment, please. Yes, motion passes.
Now we have a motion on the floor to approve this resolution. Second. We already have a motion and a second initially. We ready to vote? All right, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
19 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
Item J2N, a resolution authorizing a tire disposal fee for all non-passenger tires. Whereas currently Rutherford County residents can dispose of up to 10 passenger tires per year at no charge at the Rutherford County landfill, with the charge for the disposal of all other tires being $1 per tire. And whereas in addition, Rutherford County residents may also dispose of up to 4 passenger tires at one of 3 convenience centers that accept tires at no charge. And whereas the tires are collected at the Rutherford County landfill, where they are taken to Mack Tire Recyclers at a cost to the county of $65 per ton. And whereas Rutherford County currently receives $183,000 annually from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation through a waste tire grant on a reimbursement basis for the collection of the used tires. And whereas notification has been received from the state of Tennessee that Rutherford County will only receive a 5% reimbursement for the used tires collected by the county. And whereas it is being proposed that Rutherford County residents be permitted to continue to dispose of up to 10 passenger tires per year at no charge at the Rutherford County landfill, with passenger tires in excess of 10 to be charged $1 per tire. Additionally, the collection of up to 4 passenger tires will continue at this time at the 3 convenience centers that accept tires. And whereas all non-passenger tires must go directly to the Rutherford County landfill and will be charged a fee equal to Rutherford County's contracted rate of disposal. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county, upon recommendation of the mayor and the solid waste director, is hereby authorized to impose a tire disposal fee equal to Rutherford County's contracted rate for all non-passenger tires, with the collection point for the non-passenger tires to be only at the Rutherford County landfill. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ealy, again. The Health and Education Committee, there's no report. Property Management Committee, there is no report. And now we have a resolution from the Public Safety Committee. Commissioner Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, what I have before you is a resolution to approve the agreement for emergency services. Whereas attached is a pro forma agreement for emergency service between the Rutherford County Fire Department and the rural volunteer fire departments that provide services in Rutherford County. A copy of said agreement being attached hereto is Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein at length and set forth verbatim, and being in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the appropriate officials for and on behalf of Rutherford County Fire Department being hereby are authorized to enter into and execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County and an individual agreement for emergency services with each rural volunteer fire department that provides services in Rutherford County. Mr. Chairman, I resolve this 14th day of October 2010, and I so move.
The second from Commissioner Jones. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Sandlin?
Mr. Chairman, and I apologize, but I thought we were already in a contract agreement with all the other fire departments, or they were under that umbrella.
Well, that's exactly correct. We had an agreement whereby in previous years we made contributions to all of them. Now that we have our own county fire department, we have to have contractual arrangements with them, and we pay them over the same money, but it's a different approach technically and legally. So we had to change the structure of this to accommodate the legal structure of what we put in place.
I noticed in the public safety meeting, I appreciate that, that it was going to be sent to the fire chiefs of all the other departments. Has that been done yet? I think they were going to give us a thumbs up or whatever on everybody, so everybody's good then.
Okay. Well, the report is that all the chiefs have had an opportunity to review this, and we've had no feedback that they're not satisfied with it.
The agreement that we're approving tonight is the same thing that they've had before for training, for ISO requirements, through background checks. All those same requirements that they had before are going to be in this same document that we're approving here tonight.
And my comments just really derive from, and I think the intensity has really come down since all this has happened, but, you know, each community has their own volunteer fire department, and they've worked very hard to get the funding that they've gotten. They've worked very hard on getting all the volunteers that they have, and the equipment, and paying their insurance, and so forth and so on. And I'm just making sure that we're still good, and everybody's happy, joy, because we really need this volunteer fire departments throughout the county, because we would be in a mess if we didn't have them, and we appreciate them.
Each one of these departments are still going to have their same identity, their same chief, their same being able to fundraise. There's no changes. It's good.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. That is unanimous. Now we're ready for the Steering and Legislative and Government Committee. Commissioner Coggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, what you have before you is basically, I guess, maybe more of a housekeeping item more than anything. The handbook that you received on our first commission meeting had a few minor changes in it, mainly grammatical and typographical changes that need to be made. So that's what this resolution is about. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that Rutherford County adopts the Rutherford County Commissioners Handbook as amended and attached hereto as Exhibit 1 as the Commissioners Handbook for the County Commissioners of Rutherford County. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Black. Any discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have a couple of items from the Public Works and Planning Committee. Commissioner Jernigan.
Public Works and Planning Committee has two resolutions tonight. The first resolution is to request the Tennessee Department of Transportation meet regarding drainage. Let me just read this resolution first, and I got that, excuse me, let me start over. This resolution, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county clerk forward a request to the Tennessee Department of Transportation for a representative to meet with Rutherford County engineers regarding issues at the intersection of Valley View Road and Jefferson Pike. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010, I so move.
Second by Commissioner Black. Does anyone have any questions or discussion? All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Now, the second resolution is we have 4 drainage easements. One's at Harvest Grove Subdivision, Manson Pike Retreat, West Park Estates, and Magnolia Trace. Whereas pursuant to the private act authorizing the Rutherford County Highway Commission and superintendent to work on public drainage easements and provide for the maintenance of public drainage easement requires the county legislative body establish an official list of recognized public drainage easements. The attached Exhibit 1 are the easements recommended by the Planning Department, and whereas the Public Works and Planning Committee has approved the list of public drainage easements as submitted by the Planning Department, now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the County Commission approve the attached list of public drainage easements, Exhibit 1, as submitted by the Planning Department and according with Tennessee Code annotated 54-903 and 54-904. The public drainage easements shall be the only public drainage easements which shall be worked upon by the Rutherford County Highway Department. Resolved this 14th day of October 2010, I so move.
Second from Commissioner Cook. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Is there any other business to come before the Board of Commissioners? Commissioner Peay.
Like I said, maybe it's my night, but Saturday will certainly be my day. There's a country ham breakfast out at Kittrell Saturday, October the 16th from 6 to 10. Want to invite everybody to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Peay. Does anyone else have any announcements or any other business? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.